check.
Aditya, no, she's I don't know, she's telling only two people को देना है. आप लोग invite बाकी लोगों को हम लोग नहीं देंगे. तो वो दोनों को कौन देगा? One. I will say both. आप लोग दोनों दे दीजिएगा अपने आप से. सतीश. Request is sending my name is Aditya present. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. All the guests and the dignitaries are requested to kindly take their respective seats as we are going to start our session shortly. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, all the guests and dignitaries are requested to kindly take their respective seats as we are starting our session now. All of you are requested to kindly keep your mobile phones in switch off or silent mode. We also request you all to maintain social distance. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Preeti Verma, Senior Manager HR from BEML Limited. And I warmly welcome you all to the seminar in Hall number 1 on Aero India 2021, being held here in Bengaluru. The theme of today's session is Defense Industrial Corridors, Opportunities for Joint Ventures, Global Sourcing and Technology. We are honored this afternoon by the gracious presence of a galaxy of speakers from distinguished areas. I take this opportunity to invite the speakers on dais, please. Mr. Jayant D. Patil, President, SIDM, and whole-time Director and Senior Executive Vice President, Defense and Smart Technologies, L&T. Mr. William Blair, Vice President and Chief Executive, Lockheed Martin, India. Mr. Udayant Malhotra, Chairman and CEO, Dynamatics Technologies. Mr. Deepak NG, Managing Director, Dassault Systems. Mr. Laurel Alder, Head of Customer Services, Airbus. Mr. Akshay Billar, President, Honeywell, India. Shri Satish Mahane, Honorable Minister for Industries, Government of Uttar Pradesh. He's going to join us shortly. Shri Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Government of Telangana. Mr. Salil Gupte, President, Boeing, India. Mr. Salil will join us shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri K.T. Ramarao, Honorable Ministers for MA and UD, Industries and IT, E&C, Government of Telangana, is not able to attend today's session. And our Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji, will be joining us shortly. I'm happy to announce here that we have 250 plus people who have already joined this session virtually. Let me give a brief introduction of today's session. The Government of India established 2 defense corridors, one in Uttar Pradesh and another in Tamil Nadu. 6 districts in Uttar Pradesh are identified for the defense corridor, that is Agra, Aligarh, Chitrakoot, Jhansi, Kanpur, and Lucknow. Similarly, 5 districts, that is Chennai, Coimbatore, Hosur, Salem, Tiruchirappalli, are identified for Tamil Nadu Defense Corridor. These defense corridors will facilitate a well-planned and efficient industrial base that will lead to increased defense production in the country. In addition to state focus, the session will bring into discussion the perspective from OEMs in terms of investment, MSMEs with regard to linking India to the global supply chain, Ministry of Defense with reference to India's defense exports and state-specific defense and aerospace policies and programs. Now, may I request Mr. Jayant D. Patil, President, SIDM and Whole-Time Director, and Senior Executive Vice President, Defense and Smart Technologies L&T, for opening remarks and context setting, please. Mr. Jayant D. Patil.
Thank you, Preeti. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Dignitaries on the dais, Bill Blair, Deepak NG, Salil is about to join, Akshay Belare, Udayant, and of course the Chief Secretary of Telangana, Sri Jayesh Ranjan. It's an honor and my pleasure to welcome you all present here, as well as those 250 people who are participating virtually. This is for the first time ever that we have a kind of a hybrid event where some people can participate in person, while anywhere else you are located across the country or across the globe, you actually can join and be part of the air show. This is a day 1. And on this special occasion, let me say that I have a pleasure of welcoming you for this event. And of course, the Ministry of Defense's biennial air show is known. And this year, there was a clear decision to be made whether we hold it or we actually defer it. I think the visionary leadership of the Defense Minister made sure he made a full commitment, saying that let's not defer. We obviously have managed COVID well, and as well, if we all decide, we can make a success out of this event. It's Southeast Asia's largest event, and obviously, as a part of that, it was a good example to be set in, and that's essentially we decided that it would be a hybrid event, physical as well as virtual. Being one of the major exhibitions, Aero India actually offers a very unique platform to all of us from India as well as across the globe. And I'm particularly extremely happy that on the dais you actually see CEOs of the global company representatives, the India operations, and of course the Indian CEOs as well. Aero India is actually seeing, the 2021 Aero India is seeing more than 50 countries participating, more than 540 exhibitors, and actually an amazing opportunity in these kind of times when we all were holed in and locked in our own safety of our homes. It's something which brings all the stakeholders. It brings in the defense services, the industry, the academia, the R&D, of course, the various institutions in the country, and also the foreign OEMs. To convene all of them on one platform and showcase capabilities, get into relationships, That's something which is a wonderful thing to look forward to. To enhance and enable a larger participation of the industries, as I said, this is this hybrid format this year, and opening of this virtual exhibition under what is arguably the first ever such hybrid event anywhere in the world is something which has just happened, and the Raksha Mantri flagged it off today morning. The virtual Aero India thus actually enables visiting by very, very large number of people at the comforts of their home, and obviously be able to still be part of this kind of a historic event which is being put together. In the past year, in terms of business environment, we actually have seen a very sizable change in the major policies that the Government of India came out with, starting with the defense acquisition policy and of course the DPAPP in terms of exports and the defense production promotion. Through those policies, we clearly have seen a sort of a shift from Make in India to Atmanirbhar. Making India Atmanirbhar, or the way the Prime Minister called it, the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Under that scheme, there are several new policy initiatives which have actually been started. The long-term momentum has thus been sort of just kicked in, and towards that we see years which will see a very different level of indigenization that would start taking place. The DAP 2020 actually has pushed forward to a much higher indigenous content across categories, as also some very, very new innovative methodologies by which acquisition can happen. The change of word from procurement to acquisition itself connotes a lot that it was earlier just a function of buying and one time. Buying necessarily always meant one time, and from that to acquisition, which essentially will mean building of capabilities in the long run. This obviously encourages defense manufacturing as well as opens up a host of opportunities for the foreign OEMs to come to India, partner, as well as make their own investment in their own units. We see that FDI has been increased, so this is first time we have seen a policy balance in terms of shifting towards Atmanirbhar, at the same time clearly communicating to the world, come and set up here, and obviously as long as you make it here, you are part of us. Announcement of the negative list of imports, which we have seen 101 items list, and we all believe, and under SIDM we've been pushing for the list 2.0. The 1.0 is we have seen the 101 items that were listed under that, and obviously this, as per the Defense Minister's statement, would mean somewhere close to about beyond 4.5 lakh crores of buying from Indian industries over next 5 years of time. Aided by these policy enabling positions and very progressive kind of reforms, the Indian defense and aerospace industry are on its course to achieving those targets which have been set in under the DPEPP. The 175,000 crore which the Raksha Mantri repeated today morning during his inaugural talk, or in other words, the $26 billion of goods to be produced in India, goods and services to be produced in India, and also exporting about 5 billion out of it outside the country. We actually have joined in last 2 years the CIPRI list of major exporters. We are right now towards the bottom of that list, but obviously if we have seen last 5 years, the exports of India have grown by 15 times over 5 years. If that's something to go by, I'm sure coming years will see a very different shift in terms of that position of the largest exporters in the world. Certainly, I see that over a couple of years, we probably would be within the single-digit exporters in the world, and that's something which is for the industry to look forward to, both for the Indian industry as well as those who will set shop within India. For truly catalyzing our journey towards Atmanirbhar, the development of defense corridors, both in UP as well as in Tamil Nadu, are going to be a major contribution makers in times to come. These have been policies which were made. I must say, for the first time ever, we have seen that the government upfront said we'll create corridors, we'll make very special kind of incentive packages around these places, and also create some very special test facilities which are needed for defense goods available right within these places. Now that's something which obviously would mean an enormous amount of change in times to come. And if we go by our past performance of last 5 years, out of that, the past 3 years, if I count, 83% of rather 93% of defense exports have come out of the private enterprise. Now, when new investments are going to be happening in the corridors and those different nodes of these corridors, we see that the private enterprise would actually be contributing a lion's share to what would happen right within the country as well as going out of the country. This investment of about 3,100 crore were announced by the Ordnance Factory as well as the DPSUs in the Tamil Nadu corridor, and about 3,000 crore worth of projects have already been committed by the same DPSUs and the Ordnance Factories in the UP corridor. Today's session, we actually have themed towards opportunities for joint venture, global sourcing and technologies. I know the major, some of them who are actually on the dais, and Salil is about to be joining, how big acquisition plans they have for India. And that's dramatically going to make a change in terms of what India would contribute in terms of being sort of supply chain partners to these global majors, what would happen in terms of aerospace exports. We actually see that with some of these corridors and the enabling policies in place, newer and newer investments with increase in this acquisition which will happen from within the country, not only by Ministry of Defense, but also by the global majors, actually paving way to a very dramatic change in the overall scenario what we see in India. It will eventually lead not only to reduction of imports, but enormous amount of increase in what we do in the form of defense exports. In this process, obviously the foreign OEMs will play a very major role in development of defense industrial corridors. And we see that the investment would obviously get, in a way, targeted and channelized to some of these new places. Setting up of design and manufacturing plants, we know the design, bulk of the Fortune 500 actually are in India doing their R&D. And from these R&Ds, if we have to look forward to conversion into the manufacturing end, and of course having right partnerships, there's a whole lot of ground well set for a spectacular kind of a growth in this sector in terms of opportunities as well as in terms of policies. I'm delighted that the session we have with all the OEMs with us right now, and we have played a very significant role in developing and nurturing the Indian industry through the initiatives over 5 to 7 years. CII and SIDM have been one of those organizations which precisely have played this role for 25 years. We just celebrated the 25 years of Ministry of Defense and Industry Dialogue that was just done last month. The actual date of completion of 25 years was 13th of September 2020, and we thought September was not a great time because COVID was raging, and we decided to delay it by 3 or 4 months and finally had the event in January. The first event in this country which essentially happened as a part of this dialogue was being called the Army Industry Partnership AIP 95, September 13th. And that paved way. Before the industry was opened up for private sector, obviously thereafter have seen what has happened in this country. So we see that having crossed enormous amount of ground or having already moved along, we now see all policies in favor for a spectacular kind of a performance in terms of times to come. The Buy Global manufacture in India under the DAP 2020, we believe will be yet another game changer in that direction, and that's essentially where I see the corridors mattering a lot. I take this opportunity to reiterate SIDM's commitment to fully support the state governments, those who would want to come forward and obviously would want to help out industry in setting up shops. Obviously, industry would look forward to some amount of incentives to be able to do that, because defense, we know, is cyclic industry, and in the cyclicity, unless the export markets truly build up, this cyclicity would remain, and at those points in times of crunch, we certainly need the government support. I'm certain we shall create a new history, and of course, a couple of years down the line when we meet again, we would witness that change has happened, and we would be here to watch that change happening. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our next topic of the session is investments into aerospace in the states, opportunities and challenges. May I request Mr. William Blair, Vice President and Chief Executive, Lockheed Martin, India, to address the gathering, please. Mr. William Blair.
Thank you very much. I guess I can take my mask off. Thank you. You'll probably hear me better this way. Well, first off, I want to say thank you to SIDM for being at the forefront and a leader of bringing us together from an Indian defense manufacturer's perspective, but also it's so important to us as foreign OEMs. I represent Lockheed Martin here in India. We've been in India, we say over 30 years, but actually if you go back to the Lockheed Super Constellation, it actually goes over 60 years. But from a industry perspective, which we're here to talk about, we've had a really significant presence over the last 10 to 15 years. And I'd just like to share some information, some data that I think that brings that to life. And at the same time, talk about opportunities and challenges going forward, which I think apply to all of us, and how we can work together under the now released, newly released last year, Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020. I think it represents tremendous opportunities. Now, for context, this is not my first Aero India. I was here in 2007. If those of you that were here, it was a remarkable year for Aero India. And at that time, as a U.S. company, I was with a different company at the time, we saw a lot of challenges, a lot of barriers. Things were moving slowly. And I can say now, coming back just a year and a half ago, the pace of change is remarkable. I can say from a Lockheed Martin perspective, I first came and saw the joint venture they put together over 10 years ago in Hyderabad. And sir, we are so much appreciated. The Telangana state has been tremendously supportive of our two joint ventures. The first joint venture, Tata Lockheed Martin Aerostructures Limited. We have a 26% stake, so at that time, under the then current defense procurement procedure, we could take up to a 26% stake. Been remarkable. Every C-130J that is delivered has a tail empennage, if you will, produced in that factory. And Karen Dambala is here and is now the Chief Operating Officer there. Incredibly efficient. And I want to say thank you, too. Through COVID, you know, we had weathered a very challenging lockdown for all the right reasons. But how we managed through that and still were able to meet our deliveries is a testament to working together from a public and private perspective and engaging with the Telangana state government. So again, thank you, sir. And why is that important? Because that instills confidence in companies like Lockheed Martin that we can meet our commitments. We will deliver, even when we're facing challenges. And I'll couple that with affordability and even higher quality and reliability. It's not just a joint venture, though. What's, I think, often missed, and it's nice to see people in person, because I've been on so many webinars with you all. You know, it's great to finally connect indirectly. And so you've probably heard me say it's not just a partnership with a very large Indian company, Tata Advanced Systems Limited. It's the over 500 suppliers that tie into that whole defense and aerospace ecosystem, most of them MSMEs. Now, if I take it down to what's the pure, you know, aerospace and defense, okay, so maybe it's 300, but it's the MSMEs that are at the heart I think, of how we can deliver and integrate systems and capabilities. And now this has been going on for over 10 years. We were hoping to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, and COVID came in, and it kind of disrupted our plans. Our other joint venture is with Tata Sikorsky Aerospace Limited. It's produced over 154 cabins for the S-92 helicopter. So I'll talk about why does that matter. So we produced over 130, I think 136 C-130J empennages. We started producing them before we even had a requirement for C-130s in India. There are now 12 in service, multi-mission aircraft with the Indian Air Force, but we started building empennages and center wing boxes in advance of requirement. Why? Because we saw an opportunity, not an obligation, and that truly was a very welcomed opportunity. Do you want to welcome it? Okay. And so between these two joint ventures, tapping into the India defense and aerospace ecosystem, we're delivering not just to the joint ventures, but we're with over 70 suppliers delivering into the Lockheed Martin global supply chain. We've employed over 1,000 people, trained over 1,500 people. We've invested over $100 million in these JVs in tooling, equipment, IP, and transfer of technology. It's produced over $200 million of revenues for the Indian companies. And I think very importantly, under Atmanirbhar Bharat, under the Self-Reliant India initiative, it's not just, it is about producing and making India for India, but it's also about defense exports. And we've exported over $600 million worth of defense products from India to the U.S. And I'd like to highlight, actually, from an India to U.S. perspective in the defense and aerospace domain, over 22% of all of the defense and civil exports in the aerospace and defense domain are going to India, from India to the U.S. And that's as compared with 12% to France, 3% to Israel, and 2% to Russia. So why do I mention that? This is a commitment and a collaboration, I believe, not just Lockheed Martin, you'll hear from other companies from the U.S., to partner with Indian companies, as I mentioned, out of opportunity, not obligation. Yes, we'll meet our offset obligations, no question, but we do it because the business case makes sense. And that's why it's grown so effectively, and you'll hear from my colleagues that follow up on that. I mentioned the MSMEs, an important heart. The other heart that I'll mention, that's, I think, our future, and that's startups. Startups in India, that's our future. I think, U.S., India are kind of neck and neck in number. The rate of new startups probably are even faster in India. And we think startups, it's aerospace, defense, and I submit the space domain is our next great frontier and a tremendous opportunity for startups. And that's an extension of what we're doing today in the aerospace and defense sector. We are proud to be partnered with the Indian Department of Science and Technology, Tata Trust, on the India Innovation Growth Program. This dates back to 2007, so for over 13 years, we've helping incubate startups, many of them in the defense sector. That's led to over 400 business agreements. It's generated over $1 billion worth of revenue for these Indian startups. And so remarkably important, as I mentioned, great partners, strong MSME network, and startups are the future. So with that, I want to say, yes, there's opportunities and challenges. The defense acquisition procedures allowing us to go up to 74% FDI. And one area of opportunity as we drive for higher indigenous content, and my ask is that we need to work together, I think, in a public-private consortium approach on aerospace and defense materials. That's also a huge future. We know what countries are weaponizing the supply chain, and we need that self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, in partnership with companies such as Lockheed Martin, where we can find those opportunities in aerospace and defense material so that we can raise our indigenous content on fighter aircraft, helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, and the space domain. So with that, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you. And my apologies if I have to leave to go to the MOD chalet, but I'll stay as long as I can. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to welcome Shri Satish Mahana, Honorable Minister for Industries, Government of Uttar Pradesh. We welcome you, sir. Now, may I request our next speaker, Mr. Udayant Malhotra, Chairman and CEO, Dynomatics Technologies, to share his thoughts on leveraging defense investment policies and opportunities. Mr. Udayant Malhotra.
Respected Satish Mahanaji, respected dignitaries on the dais, all our guests in person and online, good afternoon to you and welcome to Aero India 2021. So for India, aerospace and defense has been a nascent industry in the private sector and with global partnerships, but the last 10 years have been quite incredible. To begin with, the demography of India, it's a $1.5 billion country with, a very large population that is young and aspirational. And we are growing at an incredible pace of roughly 7%. So this is the largest free population in the world in terms of actual growth. And the beauty of this is that you're a nation of law and constitution. What is also interesting is that we're about 3,000 kilometers long and 3,000 kilometers wide. So this is not a country where a lot of people are going to take trains or cars to travel. They're going to fly. And that gives us an incredible opportunity for aviation growth. If you look at India, the only other country in the world that compares in size in terms of population is China. China has 4,000 plus aircraft, commercial aircraft flying. India right now has less than 600. So this is probably the best market for global commercial jetliners over the next 20 years. And therefore, it's a great opportunity for global companies. If you look at the defense side, our neighborhood presents certain challenges. We have Pakistan on one side, we have China on one side, we have the Indian Ocean below us, the Indo-Pacific strategic region. And if you look at the last 10 years, this has created incredible opportunities of a marketplace seeking defense equipment. Over the last decade, India has bought C-130Js, we've bought Chinooks, we've bought Apaches, we've bought P-8 Poseidons. And these in turn have created great opportunities for our global partners and also for Indian industry. Right now we have an incredible policy space available to industry, both global and Indian, because you have very deep treaties, which we had earlier with Europe and now with the United States. You have the concept of Make in India that has reached into our second and third gear, so we are really getting going, and the concept of a self-reliant India. So I just want to use our company as a case study. We're a global sole supplier now over the last 15 years for every Airbus variant for the flap track beam assemblies. If you look at Boeing, we work with the Boeing military aircraft. We started with the Boeing P-8 Poseidon. Every P-8 in the world has factory fitted power and mission cabinets that are made in India. And every Chinook, the beautiful heavy lift helicopter that you see outside, the main pylon and ramp are made in Bangalore, made in India. So it's a very interesting opportunity that is arising, not just for Indian suppliers, but for global manufacturers looking for best value. This is a case study I will take us all into a little greater detail. It's the Bell 407 fuselage. This is the world's largest selling helicopter. Before they came to India, and mind you, they don't really have a very large marketplace in terms of sales of helicopters into India. They came to India looking for best value. This is the world's largest selling helicopter. Every fuselage is made in India. Roughly 100 helicopter shipsets every year. 56 suppliers that they had in the United States got replaced by one company. Over 1,600 parts are delivered to them in 5 modules. We cleaned up the engineering. We re-baselined the configurations. And today we are now working towards engineering changes going forward which will reduce the complexity of this aerostructure. So a lot of the global partners, the global OEMs that have come to India came to India because of a marketplace. But the real opportunity is that India is not just an emerging market, it's a real emerging economy with great technology, great human capability. And these are the opportunities that our partners are taking advantage of, and companies like ours are taking advantage of to grow the market. Looking at the industrial corridors that the government has proposed in the north and in the south, it allows opportunity to expand and to deepen a supply chain. So we started out in Bangalore, we developed suppliers around us. A lot of the technologies, core technologies were developed within us. Then we developed an ecosystem around us. Then we developed across southern India. And now, of course, we've got global suppliers that feed us, and then we feed as a super tier 1 to all our customers, all the products just in line. I'd just like to say this to all our global partners. You all have been here, coming to India. There have been lots of successes, milestones on the way, and the journey is a long one. But every step that we take together is just taking us further and closer to that destination that we all mutually are seeking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I request our next speaker, Mr. Deepak NG, Managing Director, Dassault Systems, to address the gathering on role of integrated systems in IT in defense manufacturing. Mr. Deepak NG.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, honorable dignitaries on the dais, members from the group, people watching us from online. So good afternoon to everyone. Just a quick check. Presentation. Thank you. So I'll take a minute to start with who we are. You all know Dassault Systems. Dassault Systems is being kind of working with multiple establishments, whether it is corporate, government, or startups. So we've been associated with them as a technology partner to support what they do physically by building that in virtual world to test and validate before it comes out. So it all started with how we can actually contribute in the sense that not only with respect to building a product or supporting to build a product, but how we can contribute to the environment as well. That's when the part of virtual world comes in, where we test, we prove, and then get into a physical world where the less prototype will lead into less carbon footprint. So for that, we have been associated with multiple industries, and our association with aerospace and defense started way back in 1980s. And in the similar year in India also, we were fortunate to participate with some of the Indian programs where the initial stage of how a technology can be leveraged for designing an aircraft and aircraft components were discussed. Now with that, in the today's context of defense corridor, when we had to kind of look back and see how and what we need to contribute and how we can work. So just if you put across, we have 4 key major areas or major players who are going to contribute with this. OEMs, definitely we know how OEM is being kind of, it's not only with respect to India, I'm talking about both global as well as India. And then the tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers who are the real contributor for producing or product development. Then MSME. So we heard a lot on MSME and the importance of MSME. Then of course the startups. So all of them are part of the ecosystem. Now, thanks to Government of India, the initiation of the defense corridors, which is going to start in Uttar Pradesh and which is already in Uttar Pradesh and then in Tamil Nadu, it's going to really help and give an opportunity for the ecosystem how they can actually leverage. So they will leverage to kind of contribute what they want to. Now, when I say in OEM, majority of the organizations today have established the design, and they are design in the sense established in terms of implementing and then deploying the technology to support their design. In manufacturing, of course, they have done, and they're also looking for a continuous improvement, because as you know, the technology improvement is ongoing. It's never a one-time investment or a one-time implementation. So how they are actually trying to enhance right from where they are and then where they want to be. And not to say that the tier 1, tier 2 companies are actually leveraging, and we just heard about Dynamitic, how they kind of worked on the technology and how they started in India and then went towards global, right? So they adopted the technology to make sure they contribute and then reach to the market where they can actually with ease cater to. Now MSME today, majority of them are focusing on the manufacturing, right? Manufacturing, yes. So they also are looking for a technology. Now when I say integrated technology, a platform or a collaboration tool as an ecosystem we need to provide, so that they talk to each other, they collaborate each other, and then they come out with products what we wanted to kind of, whether it is an aircraft, a civilian aircraft, or a military aircraft, or helicopters, or even space technologies. Now startups are going to play a major role. The innovation is something which is very key, and they are coming out and emerging out as a very interesting players, so that directly they can contribute to some of the system. Now for what we need to do all this? And thanks to Government of India under the leadership of Prime Minister and Raksha Mantri, so it's very clear that where we have to go and where we need to be. If you see that the targets has been set, which is nothing but a very good guidelines for organizations, whether it is OEM, whether it is public sector or a private sector, to see how they can visualize and then prepare themselves. So in that context, all the 4 key players are going to have an important role to achieve the target of what has been kind of expressed for 2025, whether contributing for the domestic need or for the international need, where there is a clear good vision on the export as well. In the export as well. Now, the key element of this is infrastructure, cost effective, and know-how. I just want to kind of take a second on explaining. The infrastructure is not only the physical or the plant or the line which we know, which is very key and important, but also the technology, the infrastructure, the technology, what they are going to use and how they are continuously doing it. For example, a virtual plant to see how an aircraft is assembled, or a virtual plant to see how workers are moving around, so that the right stations are positioned at the right place for the betterment of or better product development. Now when we do that, cost is going to play a major role. The reason, because when we are embarking on a journey to double the targets or double the expectation, you'll have multiple players, and obviously there are going to be competitors. So in those situations, the cost is going to play a major role. How do you kind of control the cost and come out with a quality product? That's equally important. And when I say know-how is that as India, we heard from many years we have been associated with for the domestic market, as well as thanks to multinational companies who had come here and then leveraging MSMEs and organizations for their products. So we have a lot of good knowledge on how those knowledge can be leveraged to make sure that we produce a quality product. Why I'm saying quality? Because our aim is not only to serve domestic market, right? So to support international market too. So to do that, you need to have a good workforce. And as a country in India, we are fortunate to have a good pool of talent. Now it's highly important in an integrated environment where we are focusing on the industries, irrespective of their segments and sectors within aerospace, how we can actually associate with academia and institutions where the skill or the workforce, the skills for the workforce is also equally important. Now, combination of this will definitely help country and the organizations which are actually trying, or rather putting a clear roadmap to achieve the goals. Now, what are we going to get out of this is very simple. So if we achieve with clear plan, having a right technology, having a right infrastructure in place, taking care of the cost, what can actually help us to go to international market, and also making sure that we have right quality to design and develop, this will definitely help us to increase our supply chain in India, and also the design and manufacturing strength will increase, the capability of we not only kind of assembling or manufacturing, but also the designing will also come into real play. With this, we can definitely say it's not only for make in India, of course the domestic market, but also we can cater to make for the world. This is something which gives a clear clarity on how we have to align ourselves. In this context, the topic of how all the defense corridors are going to kind of play a major role, because some of them have actually already have a technology. Some of them are actually embarking on putting up a technology in place, integrated technology. Some of them are looking for the technology. Now, thanks to government of Uttar Pradesh, so they are coming up with a defense corridor, right, where we can have a hub where they can participate and leverage the technology, not only what they can get what is available in the market, but also what a big organization like Airbus, Boeing, Lockheed are using. So with that, I'm confident that with the pace at which we are going, with all the pandemic situation leaving behind, we are embarking on a journey, and this is the first step in 2021 thanks to Aero India, which is both physical as well as virtual, and it is going to set a clear pace for 2021, and I'm confident with the help of government and all of us together can contribute for this defense corridor and also to support the ecosystem in aerospace industry. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Salil Gupte, President Boeing India, has joined the session. I take this opportunity to welcome you, sir. May I request Mr. Laurie Alder, Head of Customer Services, Airbus, to share his thoughts on the topic, Infusion of Technology Through Partnership. Mr. Laurie Alder.
Shri Satish Mahane, Honourable Minister for Industries, Government of Uttar Pradesh. Shri Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Government of Telangana. Jayant Patil, President of SIDM. Industry colleagues, here and online, good afternoon. I know it's a little late, but anyway, I'd like to start by wishing everybody a very healthy and happy and prosperous new year. This is very important as we move forward out of last year. You know, the aerospace industry and the entire planet actually has been tested in the most radical ways during last year, during the COVID breakout. Complexity, volatility, uncertainty became a way of life. But we reacted quickly and we adapted, all of us. Resilience has now become as important as growth and profit. Resilience, and we are resilient. All of us have demonstrated this. But anyway, today I'm not here to talk about the pain of the pandemic of last year. I'd like to talk about the forces for good that keep our industry going and growing and collaborating all together. I'm referring to technology and to partnerships. You know, Airbus's partnership with India goes back more than half a century, since the days when we first collaborated with HAL for producing of the Chetak and the Cheetah helicopters. Half a century, more than 50 years. We also have a very convincing track record of collaborating with Indian industrial partners. And we're very uniquely positioned to link together in this very tightly knit and vibrant aerospace sector that we have. I'm happy to announce that even here, over today and tomorrow in Aero India, we'll be signing partnerships with Indian companies, not one, not two, but three. We'll be partnering with GMR on several strategic areas of aviation services, including maintenance, components, training, digital, airport services. Second, we're also signing a partnership with Flytech Aviation Academy from Hyderabad. This is to develop the drone ecosystem The Indian government estimates that there will be approximately 1 million drones in the country within 5 years. Let's conservatively say each drone needs 2 pilots. That means at least 2 million drone pilots need to be trained over the next 5 years. And this is a fantastic opportunity. And this is why we are partnering with Flytech. The third one, Airbus's One Atlas, which is the geospatial digital platform, which is delivering satellite imagery and analyzing and the services of these imagery, are going to work, or well, we will sign the agreement to work with Hyperverge, which is a Bengaluru startup, and this will be happening tomorrow. Manufacturing. I've heard a lot about manufacturing from the previous speakers. And Airbus also, I mean, it's very well known that we've proposed to build the C-295 military aircraft in India in partnership with Tata, and partnering with Mahindra Defence for the manufacturing of military helicopters locally. The execution of these projects, it's going to help create a robust local supplier base, and this will then lead to the capability to support indigenous production of these aircraft. Over the years, Indian companies have also become an integral part of the Airbus supply chain, now representing $650 million per year of exports from India. It was mentioned by one of the previous speakers that all Airbus aircraft have some Indian content, and I confirm this. Every single Airbus that is delivered, not just in Europe, but all of our production sites worldwide, every single Airbus aircraft, every type, has Indian content. It's either technology that's been developed in India or it's parts which have been manufactured in India. And that's quite impressive, every single aircraft. We also believe that it's not just about the parts, it's not just about components, it's not just about partnerships. It's that technology and talent are the keys to unlocking this enormous potential of India. The 2 T's, technology and talent. We have a world-class engineering center here in Bengaluru. It's critical to the design and the technology of a hub for Airbus. We also now have there the state-of-the-art information management center, leveraging what's probably the largest IT and engineering ecosystem in the world in Bangalore. We're proud of our journey. You know, we could have started our journey with India by simply outsourcing some low added value activities, and that would have been dead easy, but we didn't. We decided instead to take a bold decision and to develop the real core engineering activity in India at the very first stage, and then to build on that, then to grow that, and then to grow into the activities of IT and services and procurement and now customer support. You know, for us, India is not just a large, fast-growing market. We all know that. It is a large, fast-growing market, but for Airbus, it's much, much more than that. It's a base. It's a real base. It's part of the real Airbus. It's a base. It's a strategic resource hub for these emerging technologies and world-class talent, very important, and research and development. So this engineering center in Bangalore, it's matured with very, very strong capabilities in a whole raft of different domains, from structural analysis, aerodynamics, avionics, simulation, testing, which is all vital in the design and production of high-performance aircraft. We're continuously working to upskill the cores and the skills of these teams here in Bangalore. Not only that, we partner also with Indian universities on research in advanced fields. We foster innovation and the entrepreneurial spirit through our Airbus BizLab. BizLab is a part of Airbus which is working with startups to help the startup environment get into the real business world. This has spanned a wide variety of technology, virtual reality, robotics, artificial intelligence, big data, quantum computing, and sustainability. I'd also like to just mention a few groundbreaking innovations from Airbus. Some of you may have heard of our data platform, Skywise. And if you haven't, or if you'd like to see some demonstrations, please, you'd all be very welcome to visit our stall in our stand in Hall B. We have a demonstration of Skywise. This is basically a big data platform, and we see a huge potential in developing the digital capabilities in aviation in the frame of predictive maintenance, fleet performance, trajectory optimization, etc. for aviation, for aerospace. Digital's now the new glue that holds everything together. Airbus was the leader and the innovator in fly-by-wire technology, and now Airbus is the leader and the innovator in the fly-by-data revolution, which is starting now. We move from fly-by-wire to fly-by-data. So making India Atmanirbhar in aerospace manufacturing, it doesn't mean copy-pasting capabilities which are existing elsewhere and just pasting them into India. It's much, much more than that, and Airbus can do much, India can do much, much more than that. We have to leverage this immense human competencies talent pool, which I've referred to, and we have to leapfrog to the technologies. We don't just copy-paste what's already existing. We have to take that further step. We have to leapfrog. And this ambition, I mean, it's not only in MRO manufacturing capabilities, but also you may have seen Airbus announced recently the Zero E program, which is our ambition to be by 2035 the first manufacturer of a totally carbon-free aircraft using hydrogen propulsion. And India is perfectly capable and will participate in this fantastic, innovative way forward. So friends, we in Airbus, we're all extremely optimistic about the future here. I'm proud to be working for such a company as Airbus. I'm proud to be in India. I'm based in Delhi. Constant innovation, but through this constant collaboration with Indian companies that's happened over 50 years and is just growing, growing, growing. I thank SIDM for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, our next topic is defense investments, opportunities and challenges. May I request Mr. Akshay Billar, President Honeywell India, to address the gathering, please. Mr. Akshay Billare.
Shri Satish Mahanaji, Honorable Minister for Industry, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Shri Jayesh Ranjan, IAS, Principal Secretary for Industry and Commerce, Government of Telangana, Mr. Jayant Patel, President, SEIM, my colleagues from the industry, from Dassault, from Airbus, from Dynamatics, from Boeing. A very good afternoon to all of you, and those of you who are sitting in the audience today and joining in my web stream. It is an honor and privilege to represent Honeywell, a Fortune 100 technology company with solutions that include aerospace and defense products and services, control technologies for buildings and process industry, and performance materials globally. Our technologies help aircrafts, buildings, manufacturing plants, supply chain, and workers to become more connected, to make our world smarter, safer, and more sustainable. All Honeywell global businesses have a strong legacy in India, built over the last 80 years. Honeywell's India commitment is evident in the 3 state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities, 4 global centers of excellence for technology and innovation, close to 13,000 employees across 20 locations, developing solutions for India and for the world. Honeywell is a nose-to-tail OEM for aerospace systems, ranging from cockpit avionics, engines, sensors, to wheels and brakes. Nearly 40 years ago, Honeywell entered into a strategic partnership with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, or HAL, to license production for TPE 331 turboprop engines. Subsequently, such a partnership has extended to environmental control systems. Today, more than 300 HAL manufactured Honeywell engines are flying aboard the Dornier for the Indian Armed Forces. Honeywell is also aboard the HTT-40 trainer aircraft. Honeywell's environmental control systems are powering all HAL-built or maintained aircraft and helicopters, including LCA Tejas. As a flying display of HAL's indigenous platform for fixed and rotatory wing, aptly titled Atmanirbhar Formation Flight, takes to the skies at this year's Aero India, we take pride in all of the Honeywell content that powers those aircraft. Several years back, in fact, in September 2014, when our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, announced the Make in India campaign, Honeywell was quick to respond with a strategic partnership with Tata Power SED, now Tata Advanced Systems Limited, for the co-production of Honeywell's inertial navigation units for high-grade land applications. Further, Honeywell's engines, power systems, and electronics are present in C-130 Hercules, Chinooks, Apache, P-8 Poseidon that keep our armed forces mission-ready. For the last quarter of a century, Honeywell Technology Solutions, with its global centers of excellence spread across Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Gurugram, and Madurai, have been developing technologies including for the aerospace industry. We have more than 5,000 engineers in India, and around 2,500 of them are focusing on developing technologies for the global aerospace industry. The guiding philosophy of our presence has been to establish long-standing partnerships, continuous investment towards innovation and technology, and continuous integration with the national supply chain. Honeywell has been one of the oldest U.S. defense OEMs in India and a strong supporter of India-U.S. defense relationship. Over the last 10 years, we have been encouraged by the positive energy and the strong participation across the two governments. An expanded partnership between the United States of America and India allows us to create greater prosperity for both nations and stands as a mutually reinforcing engine for innovation and growth. With the signing of the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, or BECA, and other founding agreements along with India, being the only major defense partner for US, we see this relationship growing exponentially. As the country looks to become Atmanirbhar, OEMs such as Honeywell, with a strong India legacy and commitment, should be encouraged to partner in government-sponsored research and participate in India-specific priorities to accelerate this technology development and adoption. The Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020 seeks to turn India into a global manufacturing hub, while also encouraging foreign direct investment to establish manufacturing hubs for import, substitution, and exports. We keenly look forward to how these policies will shape up, making it a collaborative effort for deeply embedded and locally invested company like ours. We look forward to fostering meaningful partnerships that will facilitate a conducive ease of doing business environment. Finally, We are hopeful of continuous dialogue at the government-to-government levels on export control reform so that more technologies can be developed in the India ecosystem, leading to cascading partnerships at the subsystem level. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, may I request Shri Satish Mahanaji, Honorable Minister for Industries, Government of Uttar Pradesh, for special address, please. Shri Satish Mahanaji.
Honorable members on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, I have been informed that more than 300 participants, they are joining virtually also on this, for this seminar. I extend my overwhelming gratitude from Uttar Pradesh, the land of infinite opportunities, as we know. I am both grateful and delighted to address the august gathering here at Silicon Valley of India, Bangalore. As we know, the Indian defense industry is going through a historic transition where the nation is focusing on expansion of Indian defense market. For this, the country is looking at the arenas of strengthened indigenous manufacturing in India. Manufacturing following vision of Honorable Prime Minister to promote Make in India for defense towards strengthening Atmanirbhar Bharat. Uttar Pradesh, the land of infinite opportunities, is India's third largest economy, contributing nearly 8% of the national GDP, with largest consumer base over 230 million people. The state is blessed with abundance of skilled and semi-skilled manpower. Not only this, with a strong manufacturing base in India, UP is amongst the 5 manufacturing states in India. UP is the highest number of MSMEs, organized and unorganized, in India. The vast ancillary manufacturing base in Uttar Pradesh establishes its gateway to attain self-reliance in defense manufacturing in the country. In order to promote Indianization, the Union government has already taken strong measures to liberalize defense manufacturing and import substitution in India, and has announced 2 defense industrial corridors in Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, with the aim to boost defense manufacturing capabilities. As we can recall, during Uttar Pradesh Investor Summit on 21st and 22nd of February 2018, Honorable Prime Minister announced 2 defense industrial corridors, one in UP and another in Tamil Nadu. In Uttar Pradesh, we had 6 nodes for defense manufacturing industries, 6 nodes. Now, the government of Uttar Pradesh has announced that only not those 6 nodes, whether it is in Aligarh, Agra, Kanpur, Chitrakoot, Jhansi, Lucknow, and Kanpur. Beyond these nodes also, UP government has announced the whole districts, all these 6 districts have been announced as defense industrial corridor, and all the related incentives regarding the defense industry will be they will be eligible for these incentives, whether they are within that corridor area or beyond that also. The industrial corridor is planned over 5,000 hectares of land, out of which 3,800 hectares of land has been identified, and total 1,400 hectares of the land has been acquired. Jhansi, as I told you, Jhansi, Chitrakoot and Aligarh, the defense node at Aligarh has already been sold out, allotted to the companies, and with this, we are in process to acquiring additional land for the other interested investors. I would like to mention here that more than 15 companies, they have signed MOU in Aligarh node, and they are just to start their work also, they're establishing their industries there in Aligarh node. This created a ecosystem within that Aligarh node, and more people, they are coming to set up industries related to defense industries in Aligarh now. Uttar Pradesh had honored of hosting Defense Expo 2020 last year at Lucknow. The event, which to best of my knowledge has been one of the best defense expos in the country till date, provided Uttar Pradesh has a grand platform to project its strength as an emerging defense manufacturing destination. The state-linked investment incentives worth rupees 50,000 crores. Moreover, a total of 20 MOUs were signed at the Bandhan event during Defense Expo. And despite COVID-19 pandemic, 24 more MOUs have been subsequently been signed, taking the total to 44 MOUs. Fortunately, Kanpur, where I come from, which is one of the 6 defense corridor nodes in the states and manufacturing powerhouse of the country, hosts prominent defense PSUs such as Small Arms Factory, Field Gun Factory, HAL, Transport Divisions, 3 ordnance factories, etc. In addition, various other HAL units, ordnance factories, etc. are located at Lucknow, Kotwa, Tundla, Ghaziabad, and Saharanpur. Further, we are taking up rapid land acquisition, and state has initiated series of land and ease of doing business reforms. Uttar Pradesh bagged second position, a jump of 12 positions in the last 3 years. The state implemented record 186 reforms spread across multiple areas, such as land acquisition, labor regulations, inspection regulations, land allotment, property registrations, environment clearances, paying taxes, and many others. One of the major reforms done by the state government was implementation of one of India's largest digital single window portals, Nivesh Mitra, providing around 166 online services to the entrepreneurs. In order to promote investors and support R&D in defense industries, we have come out with an attractive incentive package under UP Defense and Aerospace Unit and employment promotion policies. Though the policy-specific incentives are provided for investing in UP Defense Industrial Corridor, such as 25% of the land subsidy, capital subsidy at the rate of 10% up to rupees 10 crores, 100% stamp duty exemptions, and transportation subsidy on transportation of imported plants and machinery from logistic parks, transport hubs, and transportation of finished products from the plant premises to the port. Also, the policy provides 25% grant for setting up common facility centers in defense corridor. Within 75% grant has been provided by Government of India. Besides sector-specific incentives such as technology transfer to anchor projects, skill development initiatives, pertain registration incentives, and more importantly, state government has committed infrastructure facilities like 132 kVA level power system, provision of water supply, road connectivity, and land demarcation by pillars to investors setting up units within the defense industrial corridor nodes. The Indian Navy has also joined hands with UP Defense Industrial Corridor, thereby allowing the industries, MSMEs, and startups to interact directly with the buyers and customize their solutions as per requirement of the forces. The state is in process of signing a similar MOU with the Indian Air Force and Indian Army, which will be herald a new era of defense manufacturing in the state. This will facilitate more enterprises to venture in defense manufacturing ecosystem. We have established Center of Excellence at IIT, BHU, and IIT Kanpur, and moving towards establishing first of its kind CFC in the nation at Lucknow that will work closely with MSMEs and startups, providing much needed synergy between the industry, academia, and the user. It gives me immense pleasure and pride to see great state of Uttar Pradesh, the land of Lord Ram, taking such strides to release the Honorable Prime Minister's dream to be a key partner in the country's growth towards achieving self-reliance in defense and aerospace. I would like to mention here, because most of us, we know that Uttar Pradesh has many advantages. So, advantage UP, most of the things which I have read here regarding this defense industrial corridor, we have advantage UP, that Honorable Defense Minister is from UP, And another big advantage for UP is that Honorable Prime Minister also come from Uttar Pradesh. These two advantages are also with the Uttar Pradesh, which can help the investors, the industries, those who are coming to Uttar Pradesh within these defense industrial corridors, simultaneously within Uttar Pradesh as a state whole. We, as I told you, that Uttar Pradesh, we are back. We are in the second position of ease of doing business. Previously, 3 years back, we jumped 10 positions ahead. Now we are trying to be on the first position. I was talking to Sri Jayesh because they back the first position of ease of doing business. I was just speaking to him what they are doing. Sometimes we learn from these people and we try to do that. Uttar Pradesh is now changing Uttar Pradesh with huge possibilities, and we can explore those possibilities. I would like to invite you all to come to Uttar Pradesh. We can have a detailed one-to-one meeting, and simultaneously, if there are some suggestions from industries which we can adopt, because during this pandemic session also, how our Honorable Chief Ministry has managed to control this coronavirus, if we compare Uttar Pradesh as a population with many of the countries, European countries, we just can't compare with each other. But we would like to say that Uttar Pradesh has done a credible job for pandemic COVID-19. So I would like to invite you all to come to Uttar Pradesh, the land of opportunities, and Uttar Pradesh will we'll try to be on the first ease of doing business. We'll try to jump one more place that we can achieve the first place. I would like to once again request you that you come to Uttar Pradesh, and I would like to thank SIDM, my friends from SIDM, those who have invited me to this seminar, and thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. I now request Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Government of Telangana, for special address, please. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan.
Honorable Minister of Industries, Government of Uttar Pradesh, Shri Satish Mahana ji, Mr. Jayant Patil, President, SIDM, senior leaders from the aerospace and defense industry, distinguished members of the audience, participants. I would like to first of all convey my regrets on behalf of our Minister for Industries and Information Technology, Mr. K.T. Ramarao. He was slotted to be a speaker, but unfortunately at the last minute something else came up. But he has conveyed his good wishes and regards for the success of this event, and I'm standing in for him. But nevertheless, I'm very happy that the organizers have given me a chance to showcase the value proposition that Telangana, in particular Hyderabad, can offer to the defense and the aerospace industry. And one major advantage, though the Prime Minister is not from Telangana, the Defense Minister is not from Telangana, but what works for us is that we have a very strong legacy of this industry. It goes back to 1960s. Many of you will recall that when India fought battles with Pakistan and China in the 60s, the Prime Minister at that time, he took a decision to set up defense establishments, particularly R&D establishments in far-flung areas. In those days, we did not have ICBMs, etc. So it was felt that let us locate a place which is safe, which is seismologically safe. There are no typhoons, there are no hurricanes, and therefore Hyderabad was selected. And since then, lots of defense R&D work goes on there, and over a period of time, the defense establishment started collaborating with local MSMEs, and you will be amazed to learn that there are more than 1,000 MSMEs in Hyderabad today who manufacture all kinds of defense components, electronic components. They're well integrated with the global value chains. In fact, Mr. Gupte from Boeing is here. His company themselves are integrated with lots of local suppliers in the value chain. Subsequently, when the sector was opened up to the private sector, again, as I said, while we do not have the corridors are in Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. There's no corridor in Hyderabad, there's no corridor in Bangalore. But despite that, we have been able to attract, the real action is in these places. We have been able to attract the who's who of the defense industry in our states. And there are some very important fundamental reasons for it. What are the why is it that companies prefer, global OEMs prefer to come to these locations? And if I just have to very quickly summarize what is it that makes Hyderabad very attractive for them. One, of course, are government policies. The industrial policy of which defense and aerospace is a part is called TS-IPAS. And unfortunately, Mr. Blair left. Had he been here, what I'm going to share now would have made much more sense. Lockheed has 18 manufacturing facilities the world over, including a facility in Hyderabad. And if you ask them which is the factory that came up the fastest, he will tell that it was the Hyderabad factory. It took less than 1 year. It took precise 11 months from the day land was given to Lockheed Martin and the day the first empennage came out. Even the factories in US took longer than what it took for them in Hyderabad. And that is because of this TS-IPAS. We permit companies to start building right on day one without the need for any paper, no approvals, no permissions are required. And thereafter also, the kind of proactive support that we provide. Again, of course, fortunately, Mr. Gupta is here, but it applies to Lockheed as well. During even the pandemic times, when the peak of lockdown was enforced, we supported companies like Boeing and Lockheed in shipping their stuff, which was ready for deliveries to the US. And Mr. Blair did admit that that was a big relief for them. They had to maintain supplies to their other factories in the US, and whatever was produced in Hyderabad, we were able to defy lockdown and curfew and all kinds of restrictions and get it shipped from the nearest port. So a very proactive government, supportive government, absolutely no obstacles in terms of rules, regulations, etc. We trust our investors. Plus very good pool of manpower. In fact, as I said, because the industry is 5 decades old, huge pool of talent has come up, and that also makes Hyderabad a very attractive destination. Because since we are sitting in Bangalore, I do not want to run down Bangalore, but the fact is that the talent in Hyderabad is much more affordable, and the attrition rates are also much, much lower. In fact, on multiple rankings, the aerospace ecosystem of Hyderabad has been found to be the most cost affordable. Also, the incentive package which Honorable Minister mentioned, every state in the country offers good incentives, attractive incentives, but we have a flexibility in Telangana that if a OEM is getting a particular package in a particular state, we have the flexibility to either meet it or beat it. So if someone tells us that UP is giving this, or Tamil Nadu is giving this, we'll just close our eyes and say yes to it. There's no bargaining, no negotiation, and many companies have actually used that window to prefer Hyderabad and Telangana over other competing states. So in this process, in the last decade or so, Hyderabad has become a very important destination for aerostructures, for engines. In fact, lots of people who are present in this audience, who are listening to us online, they have footprints in Hyderabad. We have also become very important R&D players. Mr. Bellare is here. Honeywell is one of the premier R&D players in Hyderabad. Collins Aerospace is another, and there are so many others as well. We have also become very important location for material. Many people do not speak about it, but for the aerospace and defense industry, material, composites, these are very, very important. In fact, even for the defense PSUs also, we have Midhani, which is the premier institution which creates all the bonds and alloys, etc., which are used for manufacturing purposes. In fact, we have a dedicated composite park which has 60 players, most of them MSMEs, which prepare the material which is used by the aerospace industry. The government is very conscious of its responsibility to ensure that more and more skilled manpower is made available to the industry, and therefore we have forged partnerships with some of the leading global universities, including the Cranfield University from the UK, Embry-Riddle from Florida, and Aerospace Aquitaine from Bordeaux in France, and so on and so forth. So all these institutions, along with the umbrella organization in Hyderabad, which is called TASK, the Telangana Academy for Skills and Knowledge, we run multiple skilling programs so that there is a constant supply of highly talented manpower. In fact, some companies have come to Hyderabad just because the government gives them this guarantee that the kind of skills they require will be provided at our cost right from day one to them. So they do not have to spend effort and money in training and reorienting, etc., etc. The best example is a French company. I'm sorry, this is the US IBC platform, but I'm giving French examples. But that is the right example to share. This is a company called Safran, which has set up 2 projects in Telangana, in Hyderabad, just because the government took the responsibility of making skilled people available. So all in all, the point which I'm trying to make is that while there are other competing states, there are corridors, but the appeal to the industry is that do your own due diligence, and if you feel that the best value proposition is in state X or state Y, then just go there. I mean, corridors are great, but action is happening elsewhere, is what I would like to share with you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
I'm sorry, some people are waiting for me. I would like to thank JSG, and I am proud to say that JSG, he is also from Uttar Pradesh, only from Lucknow. Thank you very much, Jayesh.
Thank you, sir. Now, may I request Mr. Salil Gupte, President, Boeing India, for summing up the session and to propose vote of thanks, please. Mr. Salil Gupte.
Hello, and thank you so much. And as part of my vote of thanks, I'm going to thank all of you for putting up with my tardiness. Honorable Raksha Mantri was stopping by our exhibit, so I was a few minutes late to this, and I thank you for that. You know how it goes. I'll keep this very short because, I know the Honorable Minister had to leave already. Thanks to the Honorable Minister for his comments, and I'll get to those in a moment, to Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, who's been such a valued partner for the Boeing company, to Mr. Jayant Patel, and to all of my colleagues from industry who, yes, at occasional times we are competitors, at occasional times we are partners, but we are all engaged in this mission of Atmanirbhar Bharat together, to work together to ensure that the aviation ecosystem in India is fulsome, is capable, and is able to generate the skills and the products to take India deep, deep, deep into the 21st century of technology. We learned today from some of our industry partners about the developments and the progress they're making in skilling and technology and capabilities that they are developing here. We learned about what it takes to build in the corridors and how that requires working with MSMEs and finding ways to develop skills in places where those skills did not exist before, partnering with universities and schools and ensuring that you're able to upskill the local populations to be able to deliver the level of quality that your operations require. And then, of course, from the Minister Satish Mahana, we learned about all that is occurring in the different corridors, the vast amounts of MSMEs that are there, the various reforms that are enabling business, and how many of the aerospace suppliers are developing capabilities there. And then finally, what can I say about my good partner, Mr. Ranjan, in Hyderabad, in Telangana? What a partnership we have had there. The enablement of all of us through the most difficult times. And I will just say this, a desire to get to yes. To never say no, to always find a way to ensure that industry can succeed in that state. I thank you for all of that. Thank you for joining us today.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our Honorable Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji, is not able to make this session because of some urgent work at the last moment. We have come to the end of the session on Defense Industrial Corridor, opportunities for joint ventures, global sourcing and technology. May I request all the dignitaries and the participants to maintain social distance while leaving the venue, please. Thank you, one and all. Jai Hind.
This meeting is no longer being recorded.